there's the other side of this, which this again is getting around the NFL. Like people could say, and I have people who tell me constantly. I mean, I have family members who are Steelers fans. I live in the city of Pittsburgh, which means anybody I meet ever who knows who I am, which, you know, I went and got my tooth fixed. You want to know what we talked about? The Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, this is just what happens. You hear that, you know, the opinions of the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting less optimistic. You know, it's less they could turn it around and more doom and gloom. And I think that's getting around the NFL. Like, I think you got players who were here who left. Mike Williams made it known last year was the worst year of his life. It sucked. He didn't want to be there. I mean, I talked to Mike Williams like a dozen times last year, both on the record, off the record, you know, just hanging out, bullshit and whatever. I watched a 90-second video of this dude touring the LA facility, and I didn't even know he could smile. Didn't even know. I never saw him smile one time. That dude was hilarious. That was awesome. It was a great video. I'm happy that he's happy. There are a lot of people out there who've come through the Pittsburgh Steelers who probably, especially these days with the revolving door of veterans, who probably don't have the highest regard for what happened in Pittsburgh while they were there, on top of downfalls like losing 5 in a row to end the season, on top of not winning a playoff game in 7 years, on top of, I mean, quarterback controversy, on top of a terrible offensive coordinator that you could say whatever you want, but even Najee Harris, who we will get to in a second, made like that offense was nothing. And he made it clear as day that offense was nothing. Well, you push that out long enough, that becomes a thing. You know, everybody starts going to these other teams talking. Players hear these things. Hurts the reputation of players or of an organization who are trying to recruit these players every offseason. Najee says this when asked about his time in Pittsburgh. Quote, "My time in Pittsburgh, it was a lot of learning things, a lot of learning experiences. Playing for Mike T, playing in that division, there were a lot of ways I didn't even realize what the NFL was really about until I came to Pittsburgh. I don't want to get into detail with it, but I feel there was a lot of stuff in my game where I could have elevated more and I could have did more. I feel like I just didn't get it done. I feel like I was obviously missing something. It was interesting years there. I'll just say that. Interesting years." He added to it by saying that Ben retired. He had no leadership on that offense because everybody was young. He was trying to learn the NFL game from TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick, and they were only able to tell him so much because they're on the defensive side of the ball. I doubt anybody in LA who crossed paths with Naji Harris is going to get a good remark about whether or not they should go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think that's going to be the case. I bet you there are a lot of players out there who do the same types of things or who say the same types of things. And you just got to, I mean, Najee doesn't hold back, you know? You got to start wondering, is this what's being said about the Steelers? And how much... Here's the second question to this. You could talk about Mike Tomlin all you want. You could talk about whatever. Damage control. That's where we're at with the Steelers. I think it's deeper than we imagined it was going to be. Is it bad enough you feel? How bad do you think it is? Let's ask that question. How bad is it? Because you went through the Matt Canada years and you pushed that thing out as long as possible. And you became I'll try not to use the word laughable, but that's how bad that offense was. I mean, that was high school, middle school offense, and everybody saw it. Then you don't win a playoff game for 7 years. Everybody is talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. You go through 5 quarterbacks in a matter of 3 seasons. Everybody's well aware of what's going on there. You bench Justin Fields, and then your team looks terrible, and Mike Tomlin refuses to make a change. Awful. You got players leaving because of the coaches, but players leaving because of the organization and the decisions that the organization has made in the past. Awful. And now you're sitting here with the entire NFL world staring at you every single day. My grandmother called me and asked me if Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers yet. Everybody is watching. Everybody. how much damage is done to the point where, you now have to rebuild it. Damage control has to be a thing, but how deep are we with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, this offseason is certainly taking it to another level. When Steven Nelson
Yeah.
says something like this, it rolls off pretty easily. Everybody just says, all right, well, Steven Nelson didn't have a good experience at Pittsburgh. Oh, well, it's Steven Nelson. When Najee Harris starts saying things, when Justin Fields starts saying things, that's when it all of a sudden starts to get deeper and deeper into just the ethos of the NFL, that the Steelers are an organization right now that's flailing. They are not as strong as they once were. They are not a team that is a destination anymore. And the more that people talk about this, the more it's going to get to those players. You mentioned the player report card. Who votes on that? The players. So if you look at it and you say, wow, at least some of the players voted to put that grade on that team and that facility or that ownership group or that, strength and conditioning staff, they're going to take that for what it's worth. And then they're going to reach out to players on the team and ask what their opinions were. And they're going to reach out to players who are no longer on the team, but used to be, and ask what their opinions were. And if Najee Harris is saying it in the media, if Najee Harris is saying it publicly, you bet he's going to say it privately. He's going to have no issues about it. That's the one thing, for better or worse, Najee Harris just speaks his mind. It's great because you know what he's thinking. You don't have to try to cut through any bullcrap. It's what he's saying is what he's believing. But at the same time, if you're the Steelers right now, it's a lot of it that is targeted at your organization and not in a positive light. So the more things happen like this, especially from players with such high leverage personalities, guys that are well known like Najee Harris and well known like Justin Fields, it hurts. It's not a death blow to the organization by any means, but it certainly doesn't help them.